Going on placement can be a great experience, but it might be quite daunting at first.
You can never really be clued up on what a job entails until you start doing it, but you need to be aware of any potential risks to your health and safety before you start work.
Risks may arise from the job that you're doing and also the working environment.
Some of the potential risks to your health and safety will be obvious, some less so.
But any significant risks need to be identified and managed both before and during your placement. Although most of this is down to the placement provider, the university has a responsibility for helping you choose a safe provider, prepare you for the placement, and ensure you have a responsibility for your own health and safety. Yes, you. So it's in your interest to know what it's all about.
So, for all placements, the responsibilities are split 3 ways, between the university, the placement provider or host, and you, the student. There's a whole team of people to help make sure your placement goes smoothly and safely. Here at SHU, you will have a placement tutor or supervisor, link lecturer or equivalent. The term used varies between faculties, but they are there to help you. They'll be supported by placement admin staff, and you will normally have a named contact at the host provider.
You should have a reasonably good idea of the type of work you're likely to be doing and the kind of environment you'll be working in. It's part of the university's job to make sure you're prepared for that, which also includes making sure you're competent enough to do what's likely to be asked of you on placement.
This means understanding the process, being aware of your own responsibilities and what's expected of you. It's vital to make sure you're clear on this before you start your placement.
You will have to attend a briefing, complete an online test or other mandatory training to make sure that you've got your head around it all before you can get the thumbs up to go ahead with your placement.
Depending on the type of placement you're going on, you might also be asked to sign a declaration to say that you agree to cooperate and that you understand the risks and your own responsibilities. Remember, if you don't understand everything, then make sure you talk to your tutor.
So let's look at the safety risks and how to keep those risks to a minimum. Remember, this is about real risks to your safety.
Although not directly connected with the placement itself, there may be risks associated with travel and transport, especially if you're travelling a long way or going abroad. Do you know where you're going and how to get there? Do you have a map? What about times for your trains or buses? Addresses and contact details in case something goes wrong. Think about how you're going to get to your employer on your first day of work. Being late is not good. Something like Google Maps is brilliant to help you with this.
You may need to think about your accommodation. If your placement is in a different city or even a different country, then you may need to think about where you're going to live. Your tutor may be able to help you with this to some extent, but the main responsibility is still yours, so don't leave it to the last minute to find somewhere to live. Research the area or city you're going to find out which parts are good and which parts may not be so good. Again, Google Maps is useful for this. And always bear in mind where the accommodation is relative to your work. A long commute at each end of your working day soon becomes tiring, believe me. The country or region where you are going may also be important. You may have to submit an international placement form to request authorisation for your placement, and a placement agreement would set out the responsibilities for all parties. There may be some very obvious risks if you're going to a country which is in conflict or there is known to be civil unrest. The gov.uk website is a good source for this.
In such cases, your tutor might have to say no to the placement, just to protect you.
But it's not just the potential threat of violence that could be an issue. You should also know what's expected of you in the country you'll be visiting and be prepared to behave accordingly. Bear in mind that you are representing the university, so any transgressions will reflect badly on us.
If you're going on placement abroad, especially outside Europe, do you know about local customs and behaviours? The way you behave, dress and communicate are all very important, and a little knowledge can go a long way towards avoiding embarrassment or causing offence.
If you have an accident or become a victim of crime, then insurance may be vital. All UK host providers must have employer's liability insurance in case you have an accident at work. The university will usually have checked this in advance, so you'll have no need to worry about it. But for some things, you may have to arrange your own insurance. This could include medical insurance, travel insurance, or vehicle insurance for business use. But if you're going abroad, you need to make sure you've got the appropriate insurance for travel, work, and leisure activities.
If your placement is overseas, then it's unlikely that the host provider will have employer's liability insurance. The university will help check on that for you. If they don't provide insurance, then you'll need to ensure that your own insurance is adequate to cover you whilst at work. Don't forget, it's your responsibility to arrange this, so discuss it with your tutor and don't leave it to last minute. And remember, the university can't comment on the suitability of any insurance cover you arrange.
And last but not least, your own personal needs and abilities might have to be considered. If there's anything that you think might impact your safety whilst on placement, you should discuss it with your tutor and possibly alert the placement provider in advance. This can include disabilities, medical conditions, dietary requirements, or religious considerations.
As we said earlier, the university's job to make sure that you're as ready as you can be to take on your placement safely. The host provider should make any reasonable adjustments or allowances for you based on your individual needs.
So, all in all, there are a lot of things to be considered before your placement can go ahead, and they're all about protecting you and making sure that you can get through your placement safely.
Okay, so you know what you're doing, where you're going, and you're all ready for your placement. Great, job done.
Hang on, before you rush off, there are still a few things that the uni expect from you.
One of these is that you actually take note of the things you've been told or discussed with your tutor. Remember, it's all to help you.
Second, make sure you listen to what your host provider says and cooperate with them on any issues, including health and safety.
Third, and maybe most important, if you have any problems, concerns or worries, tell your host supervisor. They should help. It's all part of the process.
If you can't or don't want to raise the issue with your host supervisor, contact your tutor or the placement or partnership team back here and they may be able to help.
Especially on longer placements, you may receive a visit from your placement tutor or link lecturer, or they may phone or email you. It's vital that you use this opportunity to tell them about any problems or worries.
But you don't have to wait for them to contact you. You can always contact your placement team back at SHU if you have any worries or concerns. This definitely includes any harassment or discrimination issues. Report any such problems to the placement team as soon as you can.
Yep, you need their contact details. Make sure you have email and phone details for your contacts, both at the host provider and back here at SHU. Put them on your phone, but also write them down. Phones can be lost or stolen. And remember that the placement team needs your contact details and those of your supervisor on placement too.
Also make sure you keep the contact details for any insurance providers. If you have a problem, you may need to contact them urgently. And that's no good if you don't know who to contact or how. They might be the only ones who can bail you out in an emergency.
The university works hard to make sure that your placement goes smoothly and safely, and you play an important part in that. But despite everybody's best efforts, accidents do still happen.
If an accident happens to you, or even if it's just a near miss, please let your placement tutor know about it. You should also let your host provider know. Also, make sure that you get a copy of the accident report to pass back to your placement tutor at SHU.
Remember, health and safety is there to protect us. It's the reason why most of us go home at the end of the day, healthy and uninjured. All it takes is a bit of cooperation and common sense, so play your part.